So the only way that this show could possibly be more pure, unadulterated, fire, is if it was in fact written and created by the Human Torch. That is the only way. But with that said, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly Tokyo Revengers discussion videos. Today we're here to talk all about episode 2, Resist. But before we get into the video proper, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AniTube know that you're here, and without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. There are two big things that I want to talk about this week. For the most part, I feel like this episode is a lot of setup for like the future events of the show, and that's not a bad thing. The show actually does set up super well. Like episode 1 was definitely like it was set up, but it was also like dunking you into the world for the first time, and they did a phenomenal job. And episode 2 is mostly just like getting you set up for the adventure that is about to unfold. And they do a really good job here too. So again, I might have had my reservations at first for Linden Films, who again, I said last week, I'll say it again, Linden Films, I had no faith. I had no faith at all. Like, I know them for Sekko Boys and Magical Senpai. You know, Hanebado was fine. I hated Akashic Records. So I was like, I didn't have a lot of faith. I love Sekko Boys, and I like Magical Senpai, but neither of those shows scream Yankee anime, you know what I mean? And if you don't know, Yankee is just delinquents in Japan. They're called Yankees. They're the ones you see with like the Josuke hair, like the pompadour hair, or like the bleach blonde hair, and they wear their collars popped and they have baggy clothes and they start fights. They're the tough kids, you know. That's what a Yankee is. And none of Linden Films' previous work screamed Yankee Studio to me, but maybe that's because they got Koichi Hatsumi at the director chair, the guy who directed Gangsta, and it shows because it does have this sort of like Yankee energy. It has this delinquent energy to it that is badass and yet also at the same time kind of charming. So I think that's perfect for what this story is trying to do. I don't read the manga, obviously, so I don't know where we're going, but only judging off these last 2 episodes, the feel of the show seems as though like it is trying to be like badass and tough and cool, but also sort of endearing at the same time. At least to Takemichi and Naoto, like you're supposed to feel endeared to them, I feel, at least at the beginning. And I very much am. I really like the dynamic between Takemichi and Naoto. And it's interesting because, again, like if you've watched my previous videos, I've mentioned stuff like the hero's journey, and this does feel like Takemichi's at the threshold of the hero's journey. That Naoto might be, that he's had his call to adventure already, and Naoto is like his supernatural aid, and he is now standing at the threshold of adventure. And it's interesting how their bond is like the key to the time leap, right? We find out that through shaking hands, that's how they leap forward and backward through time. Although Naoto can't go, time just sort of proceeds normally for him. But for Takemichi, it sends him back and forth. Like a handshake sends him either forward or backward through time. Which is kind of cool, because the idea that like, it's not like he can go back further than he's gone, right? So he has to live through the days that are adding up, right? So it's not like he can be like, okay, I'm gonna leap back to the exact same date that, say, like the show started on, right? You can't. You can only leap back and forward through time at a 12-year interval. So he'll always leap back 12 years into the past. That's super cool. Like, I really, really dig that. So it's not like you can just like undo things with the time leap. Like if something gets set in stone and then the day passes and you can't go back to change it, that's just set that way. Like so you can alter the past, but once you've altered the past, it's not like you can then go back and change your mind and fix it, at least where we are right now. I think that's super, super cool. And I love that Naoto is the key to this. This dynamic between Naoto and Takemichi is like really good. I like it. You know, like the whole like Naoto being like the serious one who's doesn't have the power. He's unaware of how to properly use it, but he's done the most research on this gang that will eventually form, and they're the ones responsible for Hina's death. and Takemichi's like the one with the power, but he's unaware, like he's not sure how to use it. He's scared. He's a lot more timid than Naoto is. Naoto is definitely more of like the secure one between the two, and their whole dynamic I just think is really, really good. I wanted to see like younger Naoto to see if he remembers everything. You know what I mean? Like, not that he remembers, but if he would know, if he would know that like Takemichi's leaping through time. Like if Takemichi tells him like, hey, I've been leaping, like, you know, like I went back to the past, or I went back to the present, shit didn't work out, and I'm back here. Like, that'd be cool if he could relay information to past Naoto, so that future Naoto would have even more information. Like, that'd be kind of cool. But anyway, that's just me speculating. But I do think the Naoto and Takemichi relationship is super, super cool. And I do want to do a little bit, like just a tiny little itsy bitsy design time on Naoto. Because I didn't really get to do it last week because we didn't get a super great look at him. And this week we actually get to see him sort of more in his more typical outfit. Like, he doesn't have like the jacket on, it's just his usual outfit, which seems to be a light blue dress shirt with like very light blue eyes. Now, I recently in my Hero video gave a character grief over having light blue in their design, although I do think light blue is a good color, as it sort of gives a calming vibe. But with Naoto, I think while it does give a calming vibe, like I do think Naoto is going to be Takemichi's rock to an extent, you know, like the person he can come to rely on over time. I do think it also is meant to sort of indicate that he is there to be this security, right? Like, he's the secure one between the two of them. He's going to be Takemichi's security blanket. Whether it's in the past or in the present, the light blue nature to Naoto's design is definitely meant to indicate this sort of secure character. If you don't know, like, blue is typically seen as a sort of loyal and secure color. Like, it brings security, loyalty. The reason for that being, I think that we see blue in a lot of like occupations or uniforms that are meant to bring security, like, you know, like security guards, police officers, stuff like that. Like, blue is typically meant to be associated with some sort of like secure role. Even like your boss might wear like a blue suit if you work in an office. Like, blue is typically sort of seen as like some sort of respectful color, right? Like, there's some sort of like respect in the color blue when used in a uniform, right? Like, you either have to respect it or it's meant to be there as some sort of form of security and this sort of authoritative in nature to blue. And I do think that matches Naoto's design quite well. He is this sort of character who, like, being a cop, he does have a great deal of authority in their world and is able to dig up information on this gang. So I do think, again, the color blue makes a lot of sense. It also, blue is, if you don't know, the reason why all the Power Rangers are blue, or the reason why all the second in command in Power Rangers are blue, is because blue is the supportive color, right? Blue is sort of like the ocean. It's cool and supportive, right? Like, it can, like, it's meant to sort of, you let the waves wash over you, you know? Like, it's there to sort of, the waves washing over you is like somebody's hand just gently kind of brushing your shoulder. Like, everything's gonna be okay, you know? Like, that's sort of the waves of the ocean, just there to let you know that it's gonna be okay. Now, you don't mess with the ocean, but the ocean's there to let you know it's gonna be okay. And that's definitely why, like, all the Power Rangers, like, second in commands are blue, and it's why I believe Naoto is blue. Like, blue meaning, like, a supportive, cool character. Again, like, cool as in, you know, blue is cold, a colder color. So cool-natured. I do think that it just makes a lot of sense. Like, the light blue shirt, the light blue eyes, it all adds up to make Naoto a very interesting character. And I'm excited to see where they go from here. I love their joint goal of wanting to save Hina, because who the high hell wouldn't want to save Hina? She's great. So yeah, I really like Naoto a lot. And the fact that I'm saying that, and it's a delinquent story that's going to involve like gang warfare at some point, has me absolutely mortified that something might happen to him. But at the same time, I'm at least secure in the fact that if Naoto dies, that's going to be a problem, because then Takemichi won't be able to leap through time, and a huge part of the story would be taken away. So, yeah, I have a feeling he's probably going to be fine. Manga fans don't spoil, but I feel like everything's going to be okay. But I really do like Naoto, and I've grown to care about this character quite a bit. But that's not to discount Takemichi at all. Takemichi has a lot to do this week. And I think as a character, he's grown like quite a bit over the course of just 2 episodes, but it still doesn't feel like a leap. It doesn't feel like a time leap, you know? It feels like a proper step forward for the character. We saw last week that he does have that sort of delinquent soul in him, right? Like, he does have the soul of a fighter. And we know, based off the dialogue in the episode, it's not like, you're super badass and strong. It's more just like the fact that you hear people go like, I got like such and such amount of money on you, kid. And you hear like his friends say like, dude, Takemichi, like, you should have been able to wallop that guy. What happened? Right? Like, we hear from just like very not on the nose dialogue, right? Like, this is not clunky dialogue, which I really appreciate, because some shows do have clunky dialogue, like, you're super strong, you've been super strong since you were a kid, like, you know, like where it's like explaining stuff to a character that should already know that and doesn't need it explained. This felt very, very within world. Like, this made sense within canon, like the character saying Takemichi is supposed to be super strong. So, or not super strong, but relatively a competent fighter, right? He's a tougher fighter. He's a lot stronger than his buddy Takuya, right? So it's the characters telling him within context that, like, what happened? You should have been able to kick that guy's ass. So now the viewer knows that he is, at the very least, a competent fighter. And because we know that, and we see it's, we know that Takemichi in the present is sort of like this more shy, introverted soul. Seeing him sort of step out of his shell throughout episodes 1 and now 2, it's been really cool. And by the end of episode 2, you really see the explosion of his old self really starting to stand up. His old self mixed with his more bitter and jaded older self are sort of blending into this like perfect storm for Takemichi, where he actually basically has this big confrontation with who I assume to be the first true big obstacle in his hero's journey, the first threshold guardian, if you want to get like super technical about it. And that is Kiyomasa. Kiyomasa is definitely going to be the first roadblock to Takemichi saving Hina. Not that Kiyomasa knows that. I don't think Kiyomasa would even know what the hell Takemichi's talking about if he tried to explain. But I will say, like, Kiyomasa is absolutely like the stock Yankee type, right? He's got like the hairstyle that sort of like works for a Yankee. It's fine. But what stands out about him is like he's got like the cigarette in his mouth, he's got the grimace, his shirt is like it's not tucked in, it's sort of laid out, he's got the baggy pants, he's got like the attitude, he's got hunched over on the stairs, like he looks like your typical Yankee tough, right? And the hair, again, like looks like a Yankee type, sort of like a half pompadour type thing. And he also seems like way, way older than he's supposed to be, since they say that he's like the leader of the middle school like Yankee toughs. And I'm like, wait, so that would put this guy at like max 16. He looks like 30 something. Like he looks like he looks older than I do. Like he looks like easily in his early 30s. So which is not like hella old or anything, but it's a lot older than he's supposed to be. So it's like what? Like I forgot that that's his age. Like it really threw me for a loop. But it does sort of sell the idea that Kiyomasa is not to be screwed with. Like this is an intimidating character. And again, if I might do a wee bit of design time, I think the scar above the eye and his sort of vacant, sort of olivey eyes definitely tell me that he has seen some stuff. Like, we get this shot of the character sort of like counting money after the end of one of their fights, because they basically host fight clubs and like have other Yankees bet on Takemichi and his friends, who, don't forget, have become basically slaves to Kiyomasa and his friends. So he's like counting money, and we see this like scar over the middle of one of his eyebrows, and we see his eyes, and they're sort of olive colored, like they're a very deep green. It's almost black, and they're sort of like hollowed out. That's like the best way I can explain it. It's sort of like he has an empty gaze, right? As though he's seen some stuff, and it's absolutely ruined him. Like he has seen things you people wouldn't believe, if I might quote Blade Runner. He's definitely seen some crap. and I think it's made him definitely jaded. And if I'm judging off the color of a dark green and what that could mean for Kiyomasa as a character, like if the windows are the eyes, or if the eyes are the windows to the soul, the dark green could represent a sort of judgmental soul, right? We see that he was absolutely willing to kill Takemichi, essentially. He literally, like, when Takemichi asked to see, I believe it's either Sato or Kaseki, I think that's one of their names. He is instead met with a baseball bat. Kiyomasa goes, like, straight up Negan on Takemichi's ass, just without a barbed wire around the bat. I'm almost positive that he might have accidentally killed Takemichi if the other gang members didn't, like, jump in. Like, if the other Yankee kids didn't, like, jump in to stop Kiyomasa, there's a damn good chance that he might have accidentally just beaten Takemichi to death with the bat, and that would have been the end of the show. Naoto would have been like, where the hell is he? Like, why didn't he come back? But yeah, that's absolutely vicious, and it does make the final scene hit hella hard when Takemichi just decides, like, you know what, screw it. Why don't we have a match where the king fights the slave? What do you say, Kiyomasa senpai? Let's throw down, right? And it's just him, like, standing tall. And to me, it just sells that Takemichi is gonna really take it to Kiyomasa. I don't know if it's gonna be like this decisive win, right? I don't even know if Takemichi is gonna actually be able to beat Kiyomasa. He's way bigger, and we know that he's pretty ruthless. So it sells the final scene as like, holy shit, what's gonna happen, right? Because it's just like, what's he gonna do? This feels like the Mountain versus Tyrion, right? Like, where it's like, I don't know if Takemichi's got this. We know that he's a competent fighter. Like, we've been told that, we've seen it. So, like, in the end of episode 1, like, we know that he can fight, but is he good enough to fight Kiyomasa? Again, this serving as sort of the first threshold, like the threshold guardian into the rest of the adventure. This is like the first true obstacle. It'll be interesting to see how Takemichi actually fights, and I'm really, really excited to see how Linden Films animates it. Because when I had been hearing about Tokyo Revengers, a lot of people have been telling me, like, dude, this shit is hype. And so I had always assumed it was going to be like Bones or something that was going to end up animating Tokyo Revengers. So Linden Films animating it was a surprise. But so far, they really haven't let me down. I'm very, very excited to see how this fight ends up getting animated and whether or not Takemichi can throw down with Kiyomasa. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to poop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, as always, I want to give a big, big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button that gets you a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course your name scrolling past the screen here. Or for just a single $1, you can go ahead and hit that Patreon link in the description. Either way, it is super, super appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron, and that is it for me. I am going to go rewatch the last scene of this episode because that scene was hella hype. But until next time, bye!